You're not a nationalist, Craig. I didn't think you'd be into this kind of thing. It's fair to say I kind of surprised my friends when I came out for independence back in October 2012. It's been a wee while now. You're probably right. I'm not particularly a political person before this. Came to voting time. I read the manifestos and voted. I was always a swing voter. Also too tall. Voted for just about every major party except for the Tories. Even voted for Nick Clegg. Sorry about that. I can trace my journey in this particular part of my life back to the '97 devolution referendum. I was just starting high school there and obviously far too young to vote. But I do remember the school getting very engaged in that debate, and we had local MPs and councillors come round and they talked to us about the implications. And one of the thoughts that kind of struck me was, yeah, why shouldn't we be able to decide things for ourselves? Kind of got a bit older, started looking at various other options as I kind of settled myself onto being an advocate for Devo Max or the Lib Dems federalised policies, but wasn't really convinced by independence. That was until October 2012, the Edinburgh Agreement came along, and while there was talk of us getting that second question on Devo Max, David Cameron said no. Just completely removed that option from the table. It's odd, because he gave the Falkland Islands something completely different just a few months later. He gave them the choice to say, do you want change, and then what kind of change would you like to see? But Scotland, no. Independence or nothing. So I had to start to think, right, what's the difference between Devo Max and independence? No one needed to convince me that Scotland would do better out of powers over tax, over economy, over education, health, because I already believe it should. So what did that leave? What's the difference? Really just welfare and foreign affairs. Of course welfare should be devolved. There are lots of policies coming out of Westminster for a UK-wide outlook that just simply don't work in Scotland. Things like the bedroom tax, things like where bedroom tax is there to curb the London housing bubble, where the housing in Scotland is basically flat. It just does not make sense in Scotland. A Scottish government would not bring in something like the bedroom tax. Things like raising the pension age, where Scotland's life expectancy is sadly lower than the UK average. For an average Scot drawing a pension, they will draw around £12,000 to £19,000 less of a pension, just simply because they die earlier, even when you're deep, you're subsidising down south. Foreign affairs. Well, the No campaign says we'll have a louder voice as part of the UK. Maybe, but only if we agree with what's coming out of the UK. Even when we agree, they speak for us. Where we don't agree, which has happened often, things like trading away Scottish fisheries to the EU as expendable, or trading away our farmers' development funds, where Scotland currently gets the lowest agricultural policy funding of any country within the EU. How does that benefit us with that louder voice? Where we don't agree, if Westminster says shut up, we are shut. With independence, we get our own voice. Where we agree with the UK, we can stand together with them and have two voices in the world. Where we disagree, we can find our allies elsewhere. We can make our own case. If our voice is quieter, sometimes a quiet voice is the most persuasive. So that pretty much convinced me I was now for independence. And about this time I heard some words from Lindsay Smith. He said, don't wake up the day after the vote wondering if you could have done more. So that was that. I resolved it and decided to join my first ever political campaign. I signed up, thanks to the man up at the back there, with Yes Clydesdale, and I haven't had a free weekend since. We've been out leafleting, canvassing, roadshows in all the villages around Clydesdale, and what started as a little fledgling movement has grown a little. Last weekend we had 70 activists out in 2 locations, leafleting and discussing the issues with people. And it's not just us. All over Scotland there are groups just like this. There's about 400 local Yes groups, from Yes Borders through Yes Clydesdale up to Yes Shetland. You should really check out their Facebook page if you're online. Buster the Cat there has been doing some very interesting journalism to do with the oil industry. It's 300 non-local groups, things like Women for Indy, National Collective, Radical Independence, the Common Weal movement, which was mentioned. This is a movement that advocates bringing back high-skilled, high-paid labour, high-paid manufacturing, all the things that Thatcher took away from us. We've been spending the last 2 years poring over just how Scotland works. We've never known her better than we do now. The enthusiasm, the ambition that's been flooding through the country over the last few years, it's infectious. If we gain our independence, that energy is going to be captured and harnessed, and who knows what we're capable of from there. All it takes to build the Scotland we want is to roll up our sleeves and get out there and do it. Nothing can stop us. So what will that Scotland look like? Well, I could go into some of the ideas like currency, energy, infrastructure, health, NHS, education. I hope, please ask me questions on these. We can explore them in detail. But really, when it comes right down to it, independence isn't about these. It's not about which currency should be used. It's not about should we nationalise the energy grid or keep the NHS public. The one question you need to ask yourself when you walk into that booth is, should Scotland have the right to ask those questions? Because if we don't know, we give away that right, and we may never get it back. So, there's a quote from a classical Chinese text. It says, "Nothing in this life is difficult. Only thinking so makes it seem so. With an act of true will, anything is possible." Well, folks, this shouldn't be a difficult decision. We might not know exactly where we're going. Who does? Who knows what the future holds? But we know we can get there. We know how to get there. Another Scotland is possible. Will you come with us?